How you doing? So while the narrative that Donald Trump is an adulterous, convicted criminal who tried to overthrow the government is true, I would like to remind everyone of some of his other failings. So here's an exhaustive but incomplete list of some of the things that you may have forgotten Donald Trump did that you should remember before you vote. Okay, here we go. He incorrectly said that he had the largest crowd size in inauguration history. He gave his assets to his kids instead of divesting his real estate holdings into a blind trust. He incorrectly said that he couldn't release his taxes because of an audit. He blocked funds for sanctuary cities. He demanded loyalty from the director of the FBI. He instituted a travel ban from Muslim countries, none of which were responsible for any American deaths from terrorism from the previous 15 years. He fired his attorney general for not upholding his travel ban. He attacked Nordstrom's for refusing to sell his daughter's brand label. He said without evidence 3 million people illegally voted for Hillary Clinton. He told the director of the FBI to let go of investigating Michael Flynn. His attorney general met with Russians after he said that he didn't during his confirmation. He accused Obama of wiretapping his campaign. He suggested cutting the budget to airport security and the Coast Guard to build his wall. His press secretary forgot that Hitler used chemical attacks. He claimed Andrew Jackson would have stopped the Civil War. He shared classified information with Russians in the Oval Office. He visibly pushed Montenegro's president at a NATO summit. He banned transgenders in the military. He said the Boy Scouts told him his speech was the greatest ever given to them. He defended white nationalists. He called Confederate statues beautiful. He lauded a fictional country at the UN. He suggested kneeling during the national anthem should get you fired. He forgot the name of a fallen soldier during a condolence call with his family. Was called a moron by his Secretary of State. He became the subject of a special counsel investigation. After a shooting, he copy-pasted a condolence tweet with the name for a city that suffered an earlier shooting. He endorsed Roy Moore. He incorrectly said that he had signed the most legislation since Truman. He referred to Haiti and El Salvador as shithole countries. He inspired white supremacist groups to call his policies encouraging and refreshing. He faked a doctor's note. His former campaign manager was convicted on the same day that his lawyer pled guilty. He bragged that prisoners being released from North Korea was good TV. He referred to illegal immigrants as animals. He said Kim Jong-un loves his people and is doing his best. Referred to immigrants as an infestation. Called Maxine Waters dumb. Said in front of Putin and the world that he had no reason to think Russia meddled in the election. He lashed out at his wife for watching CNN. He opposed a sponsorship visa that was responsible for the citizenship of his parents-in-law. His press secretary said that she couldn't guarantee he didn't say the N-word. His lawyer said truth isn't truth. He came out against the White House counsel who brought down Nixon. He golfed during the funeral of John McCain. He was trashed in a book by Bob Woodward. Was trashed in an op-ed by an anonymous White House official. He denied thousands of Puerto Ricans died in Hurricane Maria. He was laughed at by the UN, ripped migrant children from their parents, filled a Supreme Court seat with a nominee with multiple essay allegations, received shady financial help from his dad well into adulthood. He shrugged off the Crown Prince's involvement in the murder of Jamal Khashoggi. His inauguration committee was investigated for illegal funds being funneled to his children. The National Enquirer admitted that he tried to muffle his own negative press. He shut down the government to pay for his wall. He encouraged an audience member's suggestion to shoot illegal immigrants. He shrugged off Kim Jong-un's responsibility in the death of a university student. He said wind turbines cause cancer. He suggested dropping water tankers on Notre Dame that would have collapsed the building. The Mueller report laid out a dozen instances of obstruction of justice. He admitted that he would take damaging information about his enemies from foreign countries. He told Democratic senators to go back where they came from. He called Baltimore a disgusting rat and rodent-infested mess. A whistleblower claimed that he pressed Ukraine's president to investigate Biden. He suggested buying Greenland. He retraced a path of a hurricane with a Sharpie to cover his inaccurate claim. He called for China to investigate the Bidens. His foundation was ordered to pay millions for misusing charitable funds. His political advisor was found guilty on 7 counts. He insulted a 16-year-old for winning Time magazine's Person of the Year. He was impeached. He was called to be removed from office for moral deficiencies by Christianity Today. He was blasted in a book by his former national security advisor. He tear-gassed a crowd for a photo op at a church. He didn't speak to Putin about Russian bounties on U.S. soldiers. He retweeted a video in which his supporters chanted white power. He said the coronavirus was like the flu. He suggested fighting COVID by injecting disinfectant and hitting the body with light. He prevented the CDC from releasing a report on when they could reopen the economy, forced attendees of a rally to sign a waiver denying them the right to sue if they got COVID. He was blasted in a book by his niece. He said Black Lives Matter was a symbol of hate. He wished Ghislaine Maxwell well. He falsely claimed the Yankees invited him to throw an opening pitch, called his White House coronavirus response coordinator pathetic, incorrectly claimed that he passed the Veterans Choice Bill. He was trashed by his sister. He suggested police wrongly using deadly force was like when golfers miss a putt. He signed a memo cutting funding for Democrat cities for being anarchist jurisdictions. He called the military suckers and losers. He was trashed in a second book by Bob Woodward. He only paid $750 in income taxes. He told Proud Boys to stand back and stand by. He was trashed by his former defense secretary, was trashed by his former chief of staff. He returned to the White House with COVID and took his mask off for a photo op. He attacked a governor days after a foiled plan to kidnap and murder her, and suggested Kamala Harris can't be vice president because her parents were immigrants. Don't ever let the changing news cycle turn his behavior into an abstract, disagreeable blur. Remember who he is and what his presidency was like, and vote.